do you have a big jar of Cheese Whiz in your fridge right now?
Well, I just think about, we all ate bologna sandwiches.
Absolutely. Do you remember my mom bought the bologna in that big chunk?
Yeah,
And just cut a slice off. Yeah.
Yeah.
God.
Okay, I have my very best friend, my BFF, which of course, back in the 1960s, we didn't have such a term, but we've kind of caught on to that. Deb Pedersen. We have known each other since the 1800s. Okay, Deb, why don't you share a story? How did we meet?
Well, it's hard to even remember when we didn't know each other.
It is.
Because we grew up in the same neighborhood, although you lived all the way down the hill.
Right. A good 5-minute walk.
Or three. And, our parents, everybody knew each other. And so, but it was in grade 6.
Yep.
When we were in the Rudics class.
Yep.
That we really became good friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can't remember really what led to that particularly. Can you?
I can't either. I think that you said it one time, it was something, we just clicked. We just kind of, I don't know either. I mean, how do you even describe these things when you're like, okay, let me insert this. Deb accelerated. That was a term back then. So she took 2 grades in one. I did not accelerate it. So we are actually 1 year apart. Deb is 1 year younger than me. So in grade 6, I was 11 and Deb was 10. So that was back. So that would have been 1964, correct? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. 1964.
Yep. King George V Elementary.
King George V Elementary. Yeah. Okay. So when we think about life in the 60s, which, now seems like a century ago,
or half.
Or half.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, if the truth were known. Yeah. What do you miss most about life in the 60s?
I think, I know that we, in many ways, led a kind of charmed lives.
Which we now call privileged, right?
Which we would now call privileged. Mm-hmm. I mean, not maybe people who would say, how could you describe a childhood in Prince George, BC, as in any way charmed or privileged? But we were. And so I know a lot was going on that I wasn't even aware of. But what I miss, or when I reflect back on those times, it's the freedom and the sense of, I felt like we lived our lives without the fear that people have nowadays of so many different things. And, we were free to play outside and to play independently of adults and to explore our world and our community and, to get to know other adults in our community, neighbors, independently of our parents. And I, obviously now I have a lot of freedom in my life. I don't depend on another adult, but that sense of just freedom and possibility was a wonderful thing to have, as part of our growing up years.
I would agree 100%. We just went out to play. Nobody said, where are you going? Mm-hmm. You just waited till you were called to come home, or you went home when you were hungry. Yeah, I mean, so we should say Prince George is in the central interior of British Columbia. If anybody's listened to this, that, I don't know Prince George, but I absolutely agree. And parents, it's just a different world right now. I don't think anybody just say, go out and play and we'll see you when we see you. And yeah, that sense of freedom for sure.
Mm-hmm. When our next door neighbor and I were riding our tricycles, so we were probably 3 or 4, and rode down our back lane and over to the high school that was, near us.
Yeah.
And we were merrily riding our trikes up and down the sidewalk in front of the school. And a student came out, a big boy, and with a can of oil, and he oiled our wheels. Because I guess as we rode our trikes, it was squeak, 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 squeak. But there was it's not like someone rushed out, oh my gosh, here's 2 little girls on their trikes.
No.
It was more, you're disturbing our math class or something. I don't know. And so, there's
a trike that needs oiling.
There's a trike that needs oiling. Okay, girls, carry on, ride your trikes. You're 2 blocks from home.
Yeah.
But there was no concern. And I'm sure our moms were busy doing the laundry.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't think a thing that they would look out the window and not be able to see us.
Yeah. Yeah. There was never any conversation about safety.
No.
And I have a feeling that was not unique to us because we lived in a small town. Because when I have this kind of conversation with people that grew up in a city, like I knew many people that grew up in Vancouver, they had that same experience. You just went out to play and nobody questioned you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if we were to compare then and now, what would you want to transport to 2021? I mean, I'm kind of thinking that.
I would. I think, but just watching how parents parent now and how kids live their lives, I think, obviously there was recklessness in our childhood. It's a miracle that then many times we fell off our bikes, that, we didn't get a brain injury or, riding around in cars without seat belts and all the crazy stuff that was done. But I think we've overcorrected in the way kids are being parented now. And one of the things that I think is missing, or I don't know for sure, but I wonder is missing, is that ability as a kid and a group of kids to solve a problem on your own without an adult. Like there weren't a lot of times when people went running for their parents. Often it was, oh my God, don't tell my mom that happened. We've got to figure this out. Whereas now I think, I wonder how much sort of independent resourcefulness and resilience kids have, because there's always somebody there to solve the problem. Whether it's sharing or, whatever it is, there's a parent that will intervene. So, I wonder what's that doing to kids' own problem solving and resourcefulness. So, yeah, I would like to bring more of that independence. Chloe, my daughter, calls it, because she thinks I'm a little bit free range with our granddaughter. And, I don't want to be careless, but I think it's okay to let kids figure it out. And I'd like to see more of that.
I absolutely agree. And I really like your term of overcorrecting. We've sort of gone the other extreme. And
I think so.
And yeah, I mean, parents just intervening with absolutely everything. And you wonder, what, as you say, what is that doing to our kids, our grandchildren, I guess, their ability to problem solve on their own. I mean, we just figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody, and it was, don't tell my mom. So, yeah. As I'm listening to you talk, Deb, I'm thinking, we've caught on to the new terms. Free range, like free range. Free range. And even the term parenting. There was no such thing as, nobody's talked about parenting. Mm-hmm. You had your mom and dad, and I guess they raised you, but that just wasn't a term, parenting.
Yeah.
As a verb. So what are your fondest memories?
I have lots of very fond memories at our cabin at the lake.
Mm.
I think that's my, those are among my best memories. I have one really funny memory that just sticks in my mind. And it's sort of an example, a little bit of what we've been talking about. I was probably maybe in grade 4. And I got these beautiful red patent leather go-go boots.
Hey, Mela, do you know about go-go boots?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
go-go boots.
So
Very
I was
stylish.
Yeah.
extremely. So I was trying them out outside on our front sidewalk. And a couple of kids who were a little bit older than me, Barb, you would know them, Carla and Bob, were walking up the hill, and they were going up to Carla's house to listen to a new record that she had. It was Last Kiss.
Oh,
Remember
yeah.
that?
Oh, God. I remember when it came out.
Out on a date
In our daddy's car. We hadn't driven very far. Hey, we all knew the words, every word. Right?
Every word.
Yeah.
So would I like to come? So I went.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't know if that's my fondest memory, but it's really one that just really sticks in my mind.
That's so funny. Go-go boots. You know what? It made me think about, the clothes that we wore that are repeated now, but they're under different. So what we used to call pedal pushers
Right.
are now what
Well, they're capris or
Capri.
crops.
capris. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And what are some other go-go boots? Bell bottoms. They
Bell
became
bottoms.
flares
Mhm.
or
Cutoffs.
Cutoffs. What are
Cutoffs.
cutoffs now?
I don't know, shorts or
I think they're still cutoffs.
Oh, cutoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
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 So there
Or
are
Daisy Dukes.
Daisy Dukes.
Ah,
Oh.
yeah. We didn't have Daisy Duke quite yet then, I don't think. I don't remember when that came along. Yeah. Anyway, I really remember with envy your beautiful Barbie development. Remember at the top of the stairs? On top of that
Oh my gosh.
big
Our landing.
cupboard on
Yeah.
your landing. That was, oh
funny.
my gosh. Yeah. So beautiful.
Do you know, you were talking about, your cabin at the lake, and, it was absolutely nothing for people to have. So many people had cabins at the lake, where now that would be, definitely in the privilege category.
Mm-hmm.
Is it because of real estate? Like the real estate market just kind of like exploded with cottages and cabins? Like the market itself just it just became really popular. Is that why?
Real estate for sure. But when we were growing up, Mela, everybody owned their own home. I mean, it was, I don't know. I have no idea. Your dad built your house down. So, I wonder, like what my parents paid for our house, have absolutely no idea. Probably $10,000 or something. But
Yeah. And yeah, I guess, Mela, the cabins and stuff were so affordable, especially where we lived, because the population was small. And I think when lots of families bought them. So when we were growing up, it was kind of a key time in Prince George, because in the 50s, the focus there was always on the lumber industry. But in the 60s, they built 2 pulp mills there. And what resulted was this huge influx of people to work there, and the town expanded tremendously. But prior to that time, affording a cabin on a lake, within a half an hour of Prince George was nothing.
Yeah.
So, lots of people did it, and enjoyed the benefit of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
yeah, and we never thought, oh my gosh, they're so lucky they have a cabin. I mean, everybody had one.
Mm-hmm. So you just went to the lake on the weekend in the summer, or we used to just spend weeks out there because my mom didn't work and my dad
Yes.
would come back and forth.
Yeah, and that's what we did. Yeah, my dad would come, drive. It was just a half-hour drive, so come from work. Of course, this is another reality of our time, is that, well, there was no such term as stay-at-home moms. Everybody's mom was home.
Mhm.
Your mom went to work, back to work when you were in grade 7, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, which was unusual.
God, it was earth-shattering for us. Remember we had Mrs. Hendricks come and be our housekeeper,
Yes, of course. I
babysitter,
remember. Yes.
Signy. Oh gosh. Yeah. Really, I remember there was a boy who lived up a little further up McBride Crescent from us, whose mom worked in one of the hotels downtown, the Simon Fraser or something.
Uh-huh.
And it was just and he was kind of friends with Derek. They used to play together some.
Deb's brother, Mella.
And I just thought it was the weirdest thing that she would be gone to work. His mom was gone to work. Yeah.
Well, it was. It just was not the norm at all.
Mhm.
I mean, you went home after school and your mom was there.
Mhm.
And, your mom was always around, and your mom socialized with other moms, and dads went to work. It was so different. It was so different. We're not saying it was better. It was worse. It was just the way it was.
Mhm.
Would you say that it made your relationship with your mother stronger or worse?
That is a really good question. You chime in, Deb, but your parents at that time were not people that you really became friends with. They were your parents. They were, your caretakers. They were your guide. They were they provided for you. Your strong relationships were with your friends. I don't know. What would you say, Deb?
Well, they kind of did their thing and we did our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it was a more utilitarian kind of relationship. Although I will say that, so Mom went back to work when I was in grade 7 and she was a teacher. And she had taught before she got married, and then went back to work. And then she decided that she would get her degree because she had a teacher's certificate, but you could go back and get a university degree. And I guess she made more money that way. Remember she went to summer school, Barb?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Remember it well.
And so off she'd go to Vancouver to UBC for 6 weeks or something in the summer and take however many courses she took. And that brought about quite a shift in my relationship with my mom. Because I don't think she was necessarily the happiest mom at home. And when she went to university and she just, met all kinds of different people and started, learning new ideas and having these interesting discussions and what have you, it kind of made her more relaxed and more open, I think. And so that coincided, of course, because she probably went the first year when I was in grade 8 or 9. I can't exactly remember. And so, that coincided with my adolescence. And obviously there were some fairly testy times between Mom and I, in those years. But her being at the time she spent at university, I felt like made a real difference and improved our relationship.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't have that experience because my mom did not go to university and didn't go back to school in any way. My mom volunteered in the community a lot. She was involved in all sorts of things. One of them being the liberal club. Remember she was involved in the art gallery and all sorts of things. But that's a good question, Mella. Yeah, it was very different. That's all I can say. Yeah, I mean, I never had a bad relationship with my mom, but it changed, of course, when I became an adult, and then it changed again when I had children. If there was a worst part, what do you think would be the worst part of our era? If there was something that, gosh, that wasn't good, and I'm glad we don't have that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing that's concrete is smoking.
Yeah.
I just think, I can't even imagine how we lived our lives with everybody in the world smoking everywhere you went. Ugh, God. So I'm glad we don't have that. And, some of it, I think, it's stuff that I didn't even know at the time. But when I reflect and think about, some of the terrible stuff that was going on that we didn't even know about, I think about, growing up in Prince George, where there were very few Indigenous people that we ever saw, and certainly never had in our lives, didn't know. And when you think that those kids were packed up and sent off to residential school, I just think, how awful. But I didn't know it at the time. I can remember when we would go to the parades, and those kids from LeJac School would come and we'd think, oh, isn't that great? They're just wonderful. I didn't know they were essentially captured and taken away from their families and forced to live there. I mean, I had absolutely no idea.
Sexually abused, we find out later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How old were you when you learned about the schools and stuff?
Oh, well into adulthood, like in my, I don't know, 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, on maybe on a certain level, I had some awareness, but, really learned about it. It really has only been, I think, in the past maybe 20 or 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really shocking.
I found out quite late too. And I'm a millennial. So I think I found out when I was like 25. Like, I didn't know what residential schools were. And that's a testament to how our education system has failed us, because it was never taught in our schools.
No.
Right?
No.
It had a different framing of Indigenous Native communities and their history.
Yeah, nobody sat down with us and pointed out that this just wasn't right. It was just something that was, and we accepted it, and nobody ever questioned. There were so many things that we didn't question.
No. I mean, sexual assault.
No.
And, when I think back, I'm sure there was a lot happening, and we never talked about it. Nobody talked about it. It was this, shameful secret that probably mostly women carried, or girls.
Yeah. I would say that, so many things were closeted. Nobody, I can't really articulate it, but you know what I'm saying? There were facts that were just given. They were never questioned. They were never challenged in any way. Certainly not, as you point out, Mela, certainly not in the school system. It means a lot of this, here we are in our 60s, and we're being educated about it now. I mean, these are things that happened, that occurred, back in the 60s and 50s. That we had no idea of.
Well, and the role of women too.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's obviously we're of that generation where things changed enormously, but when you think of the limitations that were in place, I mean, remember when we were in high school, we couldn't wear pants.
Of course.
And if you, for some reason, wore pants, there had to be a very good reason, like you were leaving after school on a field trip or something like that. So you could go down to the office and remember that orange permission card we had to pin on our clothes to be
so we could wear pants.
So we could wear pants.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Oh my
You know,
God.
I just, as you're talking, I'm thinking this is a whole other podcast, the role of women. I mean, this is a huge, huge topic
Mhm.
because, you know, the radical change in the role of women. And yeah, that's a whole other conversation. My gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was the best, you think? The best thing?
The best thing? Penny candy was pretty great. The corner store,
3 for
God,
1. 3 for
3
1.
for 1. Well,
Now
four,
that-
four jujubes for a penny.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was another thing that we did on our own. We just, you know, I'm sure we went down to the store when we were 6, right? To go and take our 10 cents and get a whole bag of candy. Yeah.
Mhm.
3 for 1, 4 for 1.
To the corner store.
To the
Remember
corner store.
Mr. and Mrs. Pelche?
Pelche? Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Mrs.
Well,
Pelche, Peggy Pelche, as my mom and dad would call her. Peggy Pelche used to be a substitute teacher. Remember?
yeah. We all
So
took her as a substitute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she knew all the kids. Well, they knew everybody. So one time, my mom and dad sent us down to the store to buy a couple of packages of Export A cigarettes. And for some reason, I thought it was my younger brother and I thought it would be a good time to spend the change on some candy. So we did.
I wonder how much the cigarettes were.
Yeah, I can't remember. And so the block and a half that we had to walk back home, by the time we got home, of course, mom and dad knew that we had bought the candy, despite our efforts to eat it, because Mrs. Pelche phoned.
She tattled.
She tattled.
I just want you to know that Deb and Derek have been down here. They bought the Expert A and they spent the change on candy. Well, I remember going down to Pelche's often and buying cigarettes. You're 7. 2 packages of matinee, please. Oh, God.
Yeah.
When you think about these things are just, yeah, it's hilarious. Anyway, I think we'll wrap that up. I mean, as we're talking, I'm thinking there are lots of topics to explore around this.
There are.
I feel like we've just brushed the surface.
Yeah. I mean, music, politics, clothes,
yeah,
food.
yeah.
Food. I mean, the different foods that we ate then that we don't have now. I mean,
You know,
do you have a big jar of Cheese Whiz in your fridge right now?
Well, I just think about, you know, we all ate bologna sandwiches.
Absolutely. Do you remember my mom bought the bologna in that big chunk
Yeah,
and
sliced
just
it.
cut a slice off?
Yeah.
God,
Hey, Deb, I have to say, this has been really fun.
it is fun.
Yeah, thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
That was great.
Yeah, that was really great.
Yeah, it was. I mean, as we're talking, I'm thinking, oh my God, we barely scratched the surface. There's so
But it's
many.
good because it made me listening to you guys made me want more, right?
Did it?
I wanted to I would love to hear their take on the roles of women. Like how do what do they think of especially that period where it was just emerging, you know, the whole sexual revolution of the 70s and so on.
You know, and we lived in a town where there were very, very, very few minorities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had maybe 3 Chinese families and we had maybe 2 Black families. We were friends with them at school. You know, I mean, remember Luana Jiang? Remember her? Remember? Yeah, I mean, there were so few. But anyway, I really had fun doing that.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good run.